All right, guys. Now we in this section we're about talking about finding the property, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed when you all of a sudden log into the portal and you're going shopping. I want to try to take away some of the anxiety by giving you a strategy on how to look for properties. So this is how we find the gem, the moneymaker. Okay, there is going to be a right way and there's going to be a wrong way. After you email, basically get the email set up there is a proper way to use an FHA loan. There is a wrong way to use an FHA loan. And from what we recall, the wrong way is to look for single family properties. Single family properties are not assets. Okay. We're going to look for multifamily properties. That's the right way to use an FHA loan. Okay. Because you're going to live in one unit and rent out the other units to make money every month. Now, this is the way that I want you to look for properties. Once you get your portal set up and you go into the portal and you see all the multifamily properties that are for sale, look for a fourplex. And if you can't find a fourplex, look for a triplex. If you can't find a triplex, then look for a duplex. If you can't find a duplex, then look for a house with a guest house. Okay? That's the order in which you should do it. And it all depends on what you can and can't afford with your debt to income ratio. And I want you to recall that a fourplex is one property with four different units on it. Okay, four distinct units. A triplex is a property with three distinct units, and a duplex is a property with two distinct units. And even a house with a guest house, even though they may not be metered and they may share the same address, the point is that you still have a second building that you could use as rental income. So the point is looking for a property that can generate income. And this is the way that I want you to look for properties. Okay. Now, the numbers. In this case, ideally, what I want you to do is look for property that has a capitalization rate of 8. Okay. That is really important because you don't want to overpay for a property that doesn't make money. I come to find anything with a cap rate of 4 or 5, 6, 7% is just forget it. Don't. I mean that if it's offering a lower cap rate, it's got to be like move and ready, spick and span, beautiful, all that stuff. I just I just don't think that's. I think that's just too much work after that to try to make money. So that's the reason why I would personally in this way with the amount of properties out there, I would just say stick with 8%. And the other thing is there's don't forget the rent roll. Okay, during the inspection period, it's super critical that you get something called a rent roll from the seller. The rent roll is a basically normally an Excel spreadsheet that says the amount of money each unit is making. Now, if they're that's if like for instance they're too uncomfortable to give you the leases to validate the income, they have to make sure that they give you a rent roll to declare what each unit is making. So, for instance, they declare on the listing that they make 8% cap rate, but then what you do is that with the current asking price, so the asking price is $325,000, right? You basically get, and they're declaring that, hey, listen, for $325,000, our 8% cap rate is saying we make 26 grand a year. Our gross, okay, our gross income is going to be 26 grand a year. Well, then in that case, you have to get the rent roll to determine that all the units, if you add them up over an annual over the year, if it comes up 26 grand, then you know that the numbers are jiving. Now, what's important then is remember from the pre-qualification letter estimates what your mortgage payment is going to be. So for instance, when you submit an offer for 325, there's going to be the mortgage payment in the pre-qualification letter. Take the rent roll and then take the numbers from the pre-qualification letter, the mortgage payment, to determine what your monthly income is going to be after the mortgage payment. Now, remember, if you recall from uh, what my expenses were in the Excel spreadsheet, that will help you also determine what your true net operating income is going to be. So you get the rent roll that should have your gross income. You take the debt payment from the pre-qualification letter, and then you take the other miscellaneous expenses that are in the Excel spreadsheet, and that's how you're going to determine what your net income is going to be. Next, here is the strategy that I want you to do to validate the numbers. So you have the rent roll and all that stuff. That's great. Then what I want you to do is, once you get the rent roll, is I want you to take and see, okay, let's say we have 2 units are 2 bedroom, 1 bath apartments. The other 2 units are 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Well, then what you do is you go on Zillow, Craigslist, and HotPads, and you look for what the current rents are for the type of apartments. And if you recall in the financial tactician section when I went to run the numbers, that's basically what we're going to do here is, hey, during the inspection, you're going to do this during the inspection period. So if you recall, like during the inspection period is when we validate the numbers. We have the rent roll. You go ahead and you go on Craigslist, you go on Zillow, and you go on HotPads, and you see what the apartments are renting for next to that building that you're going to purchase. And then if you notice, here's what's even more beautiful. If you notice that the numbers on Zillow, HotPads, and Craigslist are actually more than what the rent is currently on the rent roll, then you know that the current landlord is undercharging. So your 8% cap rate is all of a sudden 9%. That's amazing. So that's where it's like, hey, there's going to be a lot of opportunity here. Once these other leases expire, then you're basically, hey, I'm going to charge what the market is because you've already done your research by looking on Zillow, HotPads, and Craigslist. And that way you can increase your rent right off the bat. So that's how we're going to look for properties, guys. That's how we run the numbers. That's how we find the gem, is by using the strategy right here.